let me show you how to make the nostalgic 2000s era jungle, which dominated video game soundtracks back in the day and was used in many PlayStation titles. To this day, there is many playlists on YouTube bringing back these classics, so let's make one ourselves. Start off by finding a nice breakbeat drum. I found one in this classic jungle sample pack on Lender Samples, and you definitely want to use one with real acoustic drums. But our job is not done yet. We gotta cut this up and break this breakbeat drum even more. So just grab the slice tool in FL Studio and start cutting it up. The way you do it is up to you. First make a few cuts and then start rearranging the beat. So just grab one from there. This is a good starting point. We can copy this over, and now you can also use this tool right here, the slip tool, which is an underrated tool in FL Studio, and you can move the audio within the sample without moving the sample. So you can experiment with different variations. So just mess around with this until you are satisfied with the rhythm. You really want to break this drum beat up. So after some adjustments, I have this. And to make this even more interesting, we can add one more effect to the drums, which is Grossbeat. And I went with the basic 6 effect, which will chop up this drum beat even more. But that is way too much chops, so what you can do is just automate the dry wet knob right here, create automation clip, and when it's all the way down, the effect will be turned off, and when it's up, the effect will be on. So just adjust the automation, and now we have this. Our drum beat is ready to go. Now let's move on to the second element, which is the bass. You can use a plugin for the bass or a sample. We need a nice clean boomy sub bass. I went with this one shot and I created this melody. I really like when you use the low notes and then go one octave higher. That creates this nice booming effect. So here is how it sounds with the drums. Next, let's add some jazzy elements. In the 90s and 2000s era jungle, there's a lot of elements from jazz, especially these big pads using the minor 9th chords. Oh yeah, you have two options here as well. Either you go with a plugin or a sample. For a plugin, find a nice pad sound. I got this one. Go into piano roll, go to the stamp tool and set your chord to minor 9th. And then just add in the chords. Let's start with F minor and let it play out like this. Or octave lower. And anytime you click, it will create a minor 9th chord. So you can create a simple chord progression like this one. Very nice. The second option is using a sample of a pad in a minor 9th chord. Once again, I'm using Lender Samples. I have this 90s jungle sample pack open and it has exactly the samples that I'm looking for. So you've got these pads. And you can pick one and use that in the song. I'm gonna go with this one. I've created the same chord progression with this sample. But we don't need to create the chords because the sample already is the C minor 9th chord. As you can hear, I also added this one as a little chopped effect in here. So these are really basic sounds, but when put together, they sound like this. That creates a really nice ambient jungle atmosphere. It is addicting. This is the main part of our jungle track, but let's make it more interesting by adding a few ambient elements. First, I layer the chords with this sound. I'm using the Blender Synth X plugin, and I've added this light pad in the background. So now we have another layer for the chorus. But let's add more of those jazzy elements and effects. When looking for more samples, I found these trumpets, which were exactly what I needed. Really simple sound, and I've cut it up like this in the song. But of course, that sounds really dry. So what we want to do is add some reverb on the trumpet with a lot of decay and some delay as well, with the time set to 4 steps. And all I did is pitch up the samples in a different way. So by pitching it up or down, you create a little melody. I've also added this offbeat guitar hit, which again creates that nice jazzy atmosphere. For the effects, I have this dub siren. Sounds very video gamey, and I also have another siren right here. Again, sounds like a video game effect, which is exactly what we want for this type of track. All of the samples I'm using are from Blender samples, and you can find them in the description below. So now with these extra elements, we have this. So that was our first drop. In the second one, I wanted to switch up the theme, and I went with this Wobble bass. I've got this bass from Serum, really basic Wobble bass, and I've added a little vocal from Blender Chromatic, where you can find these nice kits that go well together. This one is specifically for vocal textures, and I've used this one. And I've created this rhythm. And it acts like another background element. So now we have this with the wobble bass, and we switch in between the sub bass and the wobble bass. And we bring back the drums and the trumpets as well. And as you can see, I set the transient processor on the drums to a low value, so now the drums will be more minimalistic. So instead of the drums being intense like before, by lowering the transient processor release, we make them more minimalistic. So in the second drop, we have a different theme, and it sounds like this. And before this drop happens, we actually have this transition where I used a voice recording from NASA. NASA actually has a page where you can use the voice recordings from the missions, even in music. So I've got one from the recent Artemis 2 mission, even though it's not 2000s era accurate. I just thought it would be a fun addition. So we've got this little transition here with the drums, which sounds like this.
Alright, Artemis 2 crew is go for launch. Full send.
Lastly, I want to show you the third alternative for the drop, where I've added this arpeggio. As you can see, it's following the minor ninth chords exactly, so it's really simple to create. And for the sound, I actually did a little trick that I can show you. I've used the layer plugin, and I've got 3 different sounds here. So you set all 3 as layers, just hold shift, select them, and then choose set children, and it will play all of the layers at the same time. But to make this more interesting, go to the layer and choose random. Now it will choose a random layer every time you press a note, which results in this nice glitchy sound. And I also put a Grossbeat plugin on it as well, to chop it up even more, and then it sounds like this. And that is how we create 2000s era jungle. Now let's have a listen to the finished result, and if you want to get the samples that I've used, check out the link in the description below. Anyways, let's have a listen. Enjoy.